One more time. Allow. Okay, hold on. I'm testing the sound. Let's see if that works. And input, USB condensed, USB. Maybe your mic is off. No, it's not off. There's no switch. Let's see. Let's try this. Let's try. I know this is very compelling stream. You know what that means? Maybe I'll do a stream later on today where I'll cover this all. Be fun. More work to do for the audio. Okay, anyways. All right. Where I go. All right. So I'm going to have to revisit everything I just did in the next stream. But basically, all I've done, and this is the third time people and locals are hearing this. I'm sorry, everybody on locals. But so I just made it a couple of announcements to start, which was the Great Canadian Halving Party for Bitcoin on April 18th. I'm going to be hosting this live stream. We're going to be patched in. We're going to sound off again. Sound off again. Okay. Sound is on. Sound off again. Sound is on. All right. Now there is audio. All right. I'm going to keep talking. I got to give it about 20 seconds to catch up, and then you'll tell me. All right. You know what I need? I need the Jeopardy music right now. Let me see. Let me go over here. Let me switch over, and you might hear me in the background. Oh. All right, we're good. I think we're good. Yeah, that's me. All right, that's the delay that I'm always struggling with. All right, perfect. Thank you very much, Fifth and Grace. I appreciate that. Coaching and ministry. All right, so April 18th, Great Canadian Halving Party. I'm going to be hosting with Tatum. People who are in Bitcoin know who Tatum is. He's hysterical. I am sure that bulletproof vests will be accompanying me. And everybody in the government, calm down. That's a joke. That Tatum just, if you know who he is, it's funny. It's really funny. So April 18th, we're going to be live streaming and patching into Bitcoin meetups across the country. If you don't know what a halving is, then you definitely need to watch. That's going to start 7 p.m. Eastern, 4 p.m. Pacific on April 18th. The next thing is the Mass Adoption Freedom Festival on March the 4th. That is going to be in, although mass adoption is from Massachusetts, it's going to be right on the border in Springfield, Connecticut, home of the NBA Hall of Fame. And as I just mentioned a few minutes ago, I drive there frequently, and that's the only thing I know about Springfield, Massachusetts. Looks like a cute little city. Like, looks nice. So be interesting to spend a couple of days there on May the 4th. So you can get your tickets at massadoption.com or .net. I don't remember. But I'll be sharing more stuff with you on that in the near future. All right, let's talk about now that I'm back in from Miami. And you know, everybody's telling me when I was in Miami, oh, the weather's so nice in Canada. Oh, the weather's so nice. Oh, it's so warm. And I'm thinking, great, I'm coming back. It's gonna be spring. And I land. As soon as I walk out of the airport door, firstly it was 0 degrees, and I see snowflakes. And, well, it's been snowing off and on ever since. So, hard to believe last week I was doing work under a palm tree. Anyways, moving on. The other thing I mentioned before, people have asked me about Candace Owens and Daily Wire, just because I was on Candace Owens' show, I guess. I don't know. I defer to Apostate Prophet. People are trying to trivialize it and it's just her opinion on Israel, and which I think is rather deceptive, to be entirely honest. There's no question there's part of it, but I think there's a lot more to it. So check out Apostate Prophet. He's tweeted out a couple of things, but he did a live stream yesterday with Dave Wood where they talked about it a little bit in more detail, and I think you'd understand why it might not have been such a bad I know it's a bad decision. I can understand why there was conflict, and this is how they resolved it. It's up to you whether you think that was the right thing to do. All right. So, Russian terror attacks by ISIS Islamists. You know what that means? You know what that means? It means it has nothing to do with Islam, right? That's what that means. Of course. So I put a tweet asking, what do you think? And I came up with a list of 9 things. And this comes off the back of producing a podcast for an intelligence analyst for several years who's an expert in this area and being well versed in this issue as a result. And I can almost see how people are going to formulate the propagandists online that pull everybody in different directions. So what do you think? These are the top 9 things I think that the Red-Green Alliance, which is the origins of woke supremacy, that's the communist Islamist alliance, these are the lists that they're going to try to prime in people's heads to regurgitate as the reason for the Russian attack. By the way, I thought it was, I thought there were supposed to be freedom fighters and resistance fighters. Isn't that what happened on October 7th? Weren't they resistance fighters? Isn't it the same thing? I don't know. Anyways, this is what I think they're going to put out. So number 1, this is why, these are the 9 reasons that we're going to be told, potential reasons, we're going to be told that the ISIS attack occurred before they memory hole it within 24 hours, which is exactly what they'll do. It was racism, Islamophobia, homophobia, transphobia, white supremacy, fringe minority, lone wolf, Israel or the Mossad, or capitalism. What do you think? Right? What do you think? You think maybe one of those or a group of those few reasons will be pushed out as rationale to brainwash people online, to deflect from, the Islamist attack? This is the simplicity of the world we live in, right? We not only do we not now need like a short paragraph to explain complex issues in the world, it now has to be devolved into one word. It's crazy. But it's amazing how easily people can be primed to repeat things they are told to believe, which is how most of us operate. Not in things that we're really passionate about. I mean, we discussed this before, that when it's something you're really passionate about and you know inside out, it's very difficult for somebody to pull the wool over your eyes. But it's when it's something that's complex, they don't really know all that well, you may not be passionately aligned with it so much, then it becomes easy to prime people to just regurgitate an opinion they've been assigned, essentially. I'm already seeing the Islamist accounts on Twitter blaming the ISIS attack on the Mossad. Yes, of course. And one of them's like, oh yeah, the Mossad created ISIS. Like, really? Are we that stupid now? Like, this is a level of stupidity that it was single-digit IQ at this point. It's really, but anyways. But predictably, the woke left and the woke right seem to be on pace to start regurgitating that now, and it is what it is. So, what are you gonna do? That's just how the human being operating system works. But you can learn how to I don't want to say reprogram, but how to modify the human being operating system, and we'll do that over time. Here. All right. I was on Simply Bitcoin, and the snow was just thank you, Beth. The snow was specially for me. I was on Simply Bitcoin with Nico and Opti on Thursday, I think it was. Was it Thursday? Yeah, Thursday. And we discussed Bill C63. And I read out the components that I think most of us understand are concerning. And it's interesting to see that, thank God for people like that who are in the United States who are trying to put some attention onto what's going on in Canada, because I don't see much talk about this from our alternative news sources in Canada, aside from trying to get money out of you. You know, that's basically all they do. But let's revisit this Bill 63 that everybody seems to have, I don't know, forgotten about or just don't care or think that it's gone away. So, hate crime. Section 320.1001 reads, and this is the Online Harms Act, which is an amendment to the Criminal Code of Canada. This is in relevance to your conduct on the internet. So none of this is face-to-face. So this is kind of the embodiment of speech is violence, which, by the way, if you think speech is violence, you're a moron. You don't understand English. I mean, that's why they're two separate words. Speech is one thing. Violence is another thing. They're completely different. All right. So it reads, everyone who commits an offense under this act or any other act of Parliament, if the commission of the offense is motivated by hatred based on race, national or ethnic origin, language, color, sex, religion, age, mental or physical disability, sexual orientation, or gender identity or expression, is guilty of an indictable offense and liable to imprisonment for life. That's the part that, if you look at my Twitter account, I clipped the section where Scott Adams explained that and his perspective. So for life, for 25 years under Canadian law, because from what I understand of the legislation, it would defer these actions to the Human Rights Commission. One of the organizations, I can't remember, was CCF, I think is what it is, explained the two components of the bill, the two main components, and what it's trying to achieve and where the problems are. I said, I encourage you to watch that. It was actually pretty good. Then there's the other component, which is, I wish I would have printed this larger, but it is what it is. I'm going to have to read. A person may, with the Attorney General's consent, lay an information before a provincial court judge if the person fears on reasonable grounds that another person may commit an offense under Section 318 of any or any of its subsections, or an offense under Section 320. So that is pre-crime, right? That is, Beth here, who's I love because she's here every day in locals, every single day. Beth here can decide that I or somebody else could potentially commit a hate crime in the form of hate speech online in the future, and go to the Human Rights Commission and say, I want him charged because I think he might say something that offends me in the future, and have me, or whoever she's trying to levy this at, charged under a potential of life imprisonment if found guilty. Yeah, that's pretty crazy, pretty dystopian. What do you think? And it's shocking. There was a little bit of kerfuffle from all the official alternative news, the official alternative news that helped sell out the trucker convoy. But I don't see Rebel News doing a fight C63.com to take your money from you. But maybe they are, I don't know, or any of the other alternative news spaces. Nothing, just everybody's gone quiet about it. Is it because there's conservative support for this? I don't know. I have no idea. But I'm concerned that people have gotten bored with this, that they think this piece of legislation it's just disappeared. No. This is everything. This is everything. Now, is it going to pass? I don't know. Probably not. Probably they'll drag it out until the next election, which I believe is going to be in the fall after Labor Day. But this is behavioral nudge theory, right? You push, and when you get some pushback, you roll back, you wait, and you push again. Behavioral nudge theory, which is what the Red-Green Alliance, the communists and the Islamists do with their social justice programs, right? So this is very concerning for all of us, right? And I don't know. the fact that people aren't talking about this talking about this constantly is a good indicator of how our opinions and our ideas are primed to us. Because if our ideas and opinions were not primed for us from an external source, then we'd be talking about this all day, all night. But we don't, because we go on to online media or on the television and whatever. I told this story before of when I abandoned. There's many reasons I abandoned legacy media many, many years ago. But one of the things was I remember I'd get into my car after work and I would turn on the radio in the car, and what would I hear? I'd hear 5 news stories that were just gibberish. They weren't news. I'd switch to another news channel. I'd hear the same 5 stories. I go to another news channel, the same 5 stories. I go on a music channel. They go to their news break in the middle, the same 5 stories over and over and over again. It's the same 5 stories because through repetition, that's the persuasion mechanism that they're using to brainwash you, to make you care about certain things, sometimes things that don't exist. I remember I was listening to this podcast that somebody in Republican circles in Florida got on my radar. What's it called? Is it called Red Pill Diaries, I believe is the name of the podcast? And they did a full 4-part series on that movie, Sound of Freedom. It's fake, right? Because I didn't know it was fake. I thought it was real. But after months and months of, the guy who's behind it, who they had tried to reach out to previously and realized he's not credible, and none of the claims are credible, comes back and does the same thing. So much of the opinions that we're being assigned, they're not even real. That's how crazy things are getting. It's really concerning. But anyways, pre-crime. Don't stop talking about it and do your best to try to get Bill C63 on people's radars. And the problem is, because the conservatives are such weasels and such cowards, they don't push back against anything. That's why I was a little bit of, sorry, got a message on my screen here. That's why I was a little bit of a rabble rouser within the Conservative Party, and that's why they're so vicious towards me, because they're weasels and cowards. And I was always the one saying, start pushing back, start making demands, start demanding that all legislation for the past 5 years from the Liberal Party, or 10 years, whatever it was, that it's all going to be removed. You're going to retract everything. You're going to repeal everything. Oh no, that's too much, because we got to get the voting block and whatever. Like, no, you need to show strength. I remember I told that to Andrew Scheer in his boardroom office. Like, what you need to show is strength. And he looked at me like I was from Mars. It was the funniest thing. I'm like, wow. Anyways. Politicians, they're the ones selling us down the river. All our politicians are Neville Chamberlain, by the way, all of them at this point. All right, so Bill Maher snapped on social media companies on his show. I guess it's on Friday. Yes, last night, and he had some woke supremacist writer on, and he talked about, all of a sudden, he's talking about, with his guest's name was Swisher, that the quote is, I have it here. This is about the cerveza sickness, which I don't know if I can say this on YouTube yet, but the dissenting opinions were quite the right ones. Yeah. Honk, honk, Bill. Why do you think we had a protest? Honk, honk. Like now it's, but anyways, and now I think there might be a little bit of a historical revisionism. I think I do remember him making fun of some of us, maybe making fun of, I mean, not just us, but, the people who questioned the lab leak theory, which he now says was real. And I personally think was accidental, by the way. I don't think China was intentionally trying to kill their own people with a virus that has a lethality of 2%. Like, come on. But anyways, he seems to now understand all these things. So, okay, so now what's the mea culpa? What's the remedy for the rest of us who were targeted by these people for so long, right? And perhaps if Bill Maher didn't waste all his time doing Trump jokes and actually listened to some of us, then he might have known this a little bit earlier, right? I mean, look, this is a good thing that this is happening, that people now realize what's been going on in clown world for the past several years. And that's why I'm not going to go out and attack him fully. I think he has some interesting opinions and some good opinions on some stuff, and people get it wrong. I get it, but he's definitely indicative of somebody who only exposes himself to one type of media and doesn't hear a whole broad spectrum of different opinions of which he can come to a reasonable conclusion. I think that's what you're seeing with him, and he's said it publicly that he just watches, which one is it, NBC or CNN? He just turns on one news station, and he kind of half pays attention, and that's all he listens to, which is exactly what legacy media is designed for. I've explained this in the past. Legacy media is designed for people who are passively engaged and not paying attention, and it speaks to your subconscious while you're doing something else. Whereas alternative media is something different, which is part of the reason I took the strategy I did with the Freedom Convoy. Because it was nuanced and specific, I went directly to alternative media. But the people who are sabotaging us every 5 minutes, oh, we have to call the CBC. To which I would say, they're the ones who always lie about us. No, you're not calling the CBC. And then Hurt Locker Tom would do it anyways. Him and Fuckface Wilson, the two of them. But anyways, that's why the positive side of all of this, and this is a good indication of this, Bill Maher understanding the lab leak theory. This is why I repeatedly put out on my Twitter feed, Twitter X feed, that it takes 1 to 5 years for the truth to come out about any political event. So we're 2 years in. Bill Maher now understands that this lab leak theory this is why. So things are going to be radically different in a few years if the people who understand the truth are strategic and don't do stupid things, which is why the political class tries to co-opt all these little groups that are, have the word freedom in it to make them look like maniacs, right? So regular people will get turned off by it. That's the strategy they're doing. Black propaganda, basically. All right, Bo. This is something from the UK, but relevant to what happens in Canada frequently. So Bo runs a channel called History Bro and has a program on Lotus Eaters called Epochs. I met Bo when I was there. Have been a big fan of his for many, many, many years. He is a brilliant historian and has just a brilliant grasp of, I think he has a brilliant grasp of human behavior because of his knowledge of history. Just very, very well articulated. One of the best, I'm sorry, I'm a history nerd, but one of the best people online to explain different eras of history. Check out his channel, History Bo and Epochs. So anyways, Bo, who would definitely not blame the ISIS attack in Russia on the Israeli Mossad. Fucking stupid. Bo was a candidate for the Reform Party, and the Reform Party was yet another new startup party that seems to have been co-opted. And this is a regular thing, right? This happens all the time. And we don't know. I mean, I know why. It's not the reason that he was given, because the reason he was given, he was told that he was being, they call it deselected there, I think. He was deselected as a candidate was because he endorsed a policy of, he endorsed a policy of expelling all the illegal migrants, which was a policy in the Reform Party's website. So think about that again. He was told he's being deselected because his opinion of the importance of deportation of illegal migrants is exactly what the Reform Party's platform is. So because he supported and spoke about the Reform Party platform, he was deselected. Does that make sense? or or could it be because Beau's knowledge of history, he understands very much the Islamist problem that's happening in the West and in the United Kingdom? And by the way, we all say Islamists, not Muslims, for a reason, because people who are Muslims are the ones who are the whistleblowers leaking information to everybody else to show who the extremists are. So, because he understands the Islamist threat through political entryism and extremism and street prayers and all that sort of stuff, he's been very outspoken and vocal about that. And he has not backed down on this position at all. Is that why he was deselected? Is the Reform Party suffering from political entryism? That's the process. It's called political entryism, right? When you have people that are pro-jihad join political parties and try to change the policy within, which is what's happening in Canada. In the Conservative Party, has been happening for years, as well as the Conservative Party in the United Kingdom, right? The other thing is, he was told many times that reform was just a containment project. And he said he believed in them and, maybe he was wrong. And I think it's a little bit of column A and a little bit of column B. Was the Reform Party a containment project, or was it suffering from political entryism? Well, it's a little bit of both. Like many of these new startup parties all over Western countries, you start up a party, people are well-intentioned, and then it gets co-opted, much like the Freedom Convoy. This is why I talk about the Freedom Convoy so much, because if you understand how the Freedom Convoy was co-opted, you'll understand all of politics all over the West, which is why they want to suppress me and make sure you don't listen. So it started up with good intentions, and then through political entryism from people who have loyalties to other parties, to other ideologies and whatever, they get involved in the new project, the new party, and they co-opt it and turn it into a containment project. I believe that's what happened with the PPC, for example. I think probably Max was frustrated and wanted to start a real party, but now it's clearly just a containment project, which you can tell by the allegiance, the partnership with the Conservative Party on TBOF, which was that Conservative Party. I don't know what it was, a think tank. It wasn't even a think tank. It was just a grift that sold out the trucker convoy, and Max was on their board, right? And then you also see, like, a good example of a containment project is there's this Ontario party by that grifter Derek Sloan. Loser, just can't get a fucking job. What's wrong with him? He's a good example of somebody running around trying to run containment projects, because people get paid for it, right? Listen, $50K a year, right? $50K a year, run a fake party, just do nothing, whatever, just pretend to be, a leader or whatever. All these people want to be famous, and they want to be on podcasts, and they want to be on interviews and stuff. So, okay, $50K, and I get to build my brand. There you go. That's how it all works. Anyways. All right, so we'll talk more about that later. But the more important thing is Beau. I think that's a good example of, tangentially related to what happened to the Freedom Convoy, and this is political entryism. And people in the West need to understand how this works. It's very important, because this is the key to understanding politics today, is understanding political entryism. Okay, last thing, I got a comment on Spotify. And this was with regards to Bukele and El Salvador, in which I wrote an article about this in the National Telegraph and on my Substack, which is bjdictor.substack.com. I got another one coming soon, by the way. And the comment says, thanks for making us think. I think you'll find that conservatives are critical thinkers. We don't reject ideas just because it's different, but what exactly does being left mean in El Salvador? Being left in El Salvador means you're crazy left. It's Latin America. It's very, very different. I guess you almost might say that Justin Trudeau would be considered. Well, no, maybe Justin Trudeau is a good example of leftism in Latin America. Justin Trudeau or more left, so hard communist. So light communist to hard communist is what you see in Latin America, and that's across all of Latin America. There's a whole bunch of cultural reasons for that, and I mean, the whole premise of what I was trying to explain to people was that Nueve Ideas, Bukele's party, is the left wing party, the center left wing party. It's supposed to be, and he said in many interviews for many years, "Soy de izquierda radical. I'm a radical leftist." Like many times. Yet he spoke at CPAC, which is very concerning. I spoke to some people around CPAC when I was in the U.S., and there seemed to be concerns around there. I don't know if Matt Schlapp runs it. We don't know if he's aware of some of the concerns, but that's why I talk about this stuff, right? Because you can't get angry at people for not knowing stuff if none of us are talking about it and none of us are writing about it. None of us are trying to communicate what's going on, right? But anyways, yeah, so that's it. And I think we're going to shut it down. I think all of this, look, all of this that I talked about, is any of this really negative? I mean, understanding things is not negative. I think it's positive. And the biggest positive thing that we see here is this idea that it takes 1 to 5 years for people to see the truth about a political event. 2 years in, Bill Maher now sees the truth. There's many other people. There's people on the left that he talks to saying, well, yeah, maybe it was complicated. So that's mid-shift, right? They're in the middle of discovering that something was wrong. So the truth eventually comes out, right? It eventually does, especially if you just got to speak out, right? Speak out in a way that sometimes you're divisive, sometimes you're not. It just kind of depends where you are and kind of the battle that you're fighting at that moment. But just don't fight the universe. Just be patient, speak the truth. Things will work out. It's just going to take some time. If Bill Maher is figuring it out, then you know what? Everybody else will. And that's not a comment. I'm not saying that Bill Maher is stupid. But, and the same goes for how the political convoy swamp sold out the truckers. People will understand that. It's just going to take time. I'm going to keep talking about it. Everybody else is going to keep talking about it because there's so many people in the know. There's a lot of people who have been quiet, the quiet majority who know exactly what went on. And they're letting people, people don't want more unnecessary conflict in their lives. Who wants that, right? But I think just give it some time. Give it some time and things are going to work out. And that's why I always talk about taking the noise of the world, putting it in a little box, putting it off to the side, focus on all the things that are in your life you need to deal with. And then once in a while, you open the box of noise. Maybe that's called social media. You see what's there. You either respond or you don't, but you can just kind of aware what's going on. And then you close it back up, and that's it. It's not a big deal, really. Okay. I don't mean to cut it too short, and I'm sorry about all the technical problems when I started. Who knows what that was, but I'll figure it out for next time. I have a meeting I got to run to in a few minutes, so I hope you all have an amazing day. Please, please, please be as good and as kind to people as possible. It'll make your life so much more rewarding. I practiced a lot of that sort of gratitude framing when I was in Florida, and it just makes things so much easier, right? Especially when it's snowing and 0 degrees here, like it is. Like you need as much help as you can get, right? All right. I love you all, and I will talk to you all soon. Have a great one.